Hey everyone, and welcome to the weekly DCI score report brought to you by the Marching Arts Podcast, your guide to all things marching. We had a very busy week this past week. We had 4 events, 3 of which were in California. First of the 4 was Corps at the Crest in San Diego. Top 3 scores. Santa Clara Vanguard got a 69.95. Nice. Number 2 was Mandarins, 65.3, and number 3 was the Academy at 61.4. Again, that was Corps at the Crest in San Diego, a way to start the season. Next one was in Pasadena, and that was Drum Corps at the Rose Bowl. Top 3 scores. Blue Devils joined us on this cast, so it was 72.3 for Blue Devils, 70.9 for Santa Clara, and 66.4 for the Mandarins. So it's kind of following that trend here. Number 3 was the Western Corps Connection. Again, top 3: Blue Devils 73.5, Santa Clara 71.8, and Mandarin 67.65. And then our last one was the official Dci Tour Premiere. So this is where most of the corps will jump in along the way rather than having individual events. This one was led by the Blue Coats at 71.7, followed by Boston Crusaders at 69.4. And then we had the Cavaliers at 67.6, and all of those happened within the span of a few days, 4 days actually, to be exact. So it was a very busy week. And it was a lot to keep up with, James.
Yeah, it was a lot to watch. I think
Lots of band.
but I think a lot of our predictions from last week came true. Namely, COVID sort of tanked a lot of scores. I think we'll have to see. Some corps did have a 2 to 3 point increase from their first show. So who knows if it's just corps shaking off the rust or it will continue to lag as the season goes. So, and then
It's
again,
interesting. No, go ahead.
we predicted Blue Devils would be on top. And they're clearly on top right now. I mean, it's not that big of a gap because you said it was like 73 point something versus Blue Coats at 71 and Santa Clara at 71. So, the gap is definitely closable. So I guess we'll see which corps improve the fastest at this rate. And then I guess some of the big corps we didn't get to see this week was, or last week was Carolina Crown, Music City, more corps in the southeast. So I can't wait to see those this coming week.
Yeah, I can't either. I'm really interested to see what some of these other bigger corps are going to pull out of their sock, if you will. But what's interesting about talking about COVID in the numbers, you pulled a report about 2019 numbers. What
Mm-hmm.
I find interesting at this point, 2019, so very very beginning of the season, Santa Clara again was one of the front runners at 77,
Right.
77, and at the same point, they had a 69.9.
Right.
That's
Well,
crazy. That is almost 8 points lower. We thought it was going to be a couple. That was
right.
8 points.
Well, now that I'm thinking
We,
about it, though, like, I guess, yeah, you've had 3 years of people just aging out. So even if you march DCI at 14, which I think is like the lower limit, you'd be 17, 18 now. And anybody who was 18 and older cannot march DCI anymore, basically. So we just had 3 years of just no experience, just gone.
yeah, fair enough. And without the experience to lead new members, you had 3 years of people that are now old enough, right?
Right.
So that's crazy, man. It's
Yeah.
going to be a cool season, I think. I thought
Right.
the personally, I thought Blue Devils are going to be running away with the score.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was wrong. So I'm interested to see, what happens to your point about
Right.
it, the gap is closable.
I bet
Um,
you it's probably going to be a lot of cores are going to have pretty low scores, lower scores than people were expecting. Then they're going to shake off that rust of just not doing competitive shows and like doing that grind of having shows multiple times a week. But then we are definitely going to hit that plateau that's still going to be lower than those 2019 scores. And then I guess it'll be interesting to see that like mad push for the last maybe week and a half of cores like trying to do everything to make top 12 and potentially win out.
right. I want to bring up something interesting about these scores. I pulled the full report. for GE.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2 for the Tour Premiere. That's the one I'm going to kind of be focusing on for in depth since that's the official start.
Right.
Um, the other ones are just kind of like preseason. Um, so in order 1 to 6, ranking it went Blue Coats, Crusaders, Cavaliers, Phantom, Stars, and Crossmen. That's the top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for GE, both 1 and 2, I don't. Chief Judge Michael Stone for this one was GE1.
Right.
But he was also chief judge. I don't know what the first name was of GE2, but last name Bell. Both of them ranked across the board 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Went down the line
Huh.
that way. So it was really interesting. So it wasn't like like Crusaders was 1 on some things and Blue
Right.
Coats got over. It was literally 1, 1, 1, 1,
And
or one, two,
we
three, four, five, six.
we also said before that like the more top dog cores would be probably better suited for the 3-year layoff, and that's essentially what we're seeing with Crossman and what was the other name? Blue Knights, Blue Stars, down at the bottom.
Yes.
So and I made a lot of notes and definitely saw lots of holes in like Crossman's drill where they would try to make circles and whatnot. And so like when you try to make, smaller shapes, you can definitely tell when there are holes in the drill, right? So I think that may have been hurting their GE as well. Um, but
Well,
I
I
go
mean, I
ahead.
think just with 3 years gap and I mean, holes are kind of hard to explain, especially at DCI, because typically if you had holes in it's because people weren't there, right?
Right.
But at the DCI level, it's like everyone's there, so
Hmm.
I don't know where the holes came. I know what you're talking about, so I don't know where the holes came from. I don't know
Yeah,
if people were just way spaced out or not.
I'm wondering if score or shows are written already before even like auditions happen, and if they fill the spots, they fill the spots, and they don't, and they just don't bother. Because I doubt that many, with the number of holes I saw throughout this past week, I doubt that many people were out sick. I mean, I guess maybe totally possible it is, but I think maybe that if they just have a hole in their show, they're not gonna take the time to fill the hole. If that makes sense, or like change the drill. So
Well, that's a good point, but I guess that kind of varies per core, right? If they're gonna depending on when they do their signups or when they close, whether or not how they do their show. So if they have like a late close for their signups, they may have had their drill beforehand,
right,
or if they have an early cutoff, then they start writing the drill. I would think that's probably the case for some of the bigger ones because they probably have some dedicated drill writers that want to write for their core, so they're
right.
just like, just send me the numbers.
Hmm.
um, but man, pretty interesting across the board for this one. Great start. Next event is July 1st, so
2 days.
that's 2 days. Yep. Um, and that'll be whoops, had the schedule up. Hold on, hold please. That'll be at Central Indiana.
Right, and I think
In
Carolina Crown
Muncie.
is showing up that night.
Yeah, let me check. I can. I think
And
I
it's
can see
really
the.
weird. You wouldn't expect Carolina Crown to be like the home core for that night, but I think they're scheduled to do the encore for that show. So,
Yeah, let me see what the full lineup is. All right, so for that one, we got the Colts, Crossman, Phantom, Blue Stars, Cavaliers, Crown. An encore show for the Crown.
right.
So since they're the home crowd, which is interesting. So and then scores announced at 10:24 p.m. So late show.
Hmm.
Um, and that is that going to be Central Time? Is Muncie
Yeah,
in
it's
Central
always
Time?
local
No.
time. So,
Yeah, I guess Muncie's in Central Time. Um,
okay, here's a
no, it
question.
says Eastern Time. So
Oh,
no.
okay. So here's a question for you then. How much do you love baseball?
Dude, I love baseball. Why?
Okay, do you think you're like the average person who like,
Probably.
so you think like most of Americans love baseball?
Oh, that kind of question. I don't know. I think it varies, but depending on geography.
Okay. So the reason I ask is because I was thinking about it the other night with the Stanley Cup Finals finishing, I want to say Sunday night. The
Oh, Colorado.
only, yes, with Colorado winning, congratulations. The only sport that is on for the next 2 months, major sport, I should say, is baseball. I mean,
Yeah,
I
my
guess you
Braves
can
jersey
throw
on.
in MLS in there, and I think in a couple of years we can argue there's, a big five instead of big four. But I do feel like DCI should be taking advantage of the fact that there is only one major sport happening right now, and so
Agree.
maybe there's a lot of eyeballs that are out there that just don't know. So,
Well,
um,
they also don't have anything to watch.
yeah,
So,
literally have nothing else to watch.
yeah, to that, I think that could be tricky because marching band's a little hard to understand to watch. Kind of like how people watch golf and not really understand the rules. I say that as a personal experience.
Right.
And marching band or DCI, I should say, is a lot of the same, right? You're watching the same core, like cores. If you're not, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to look for, it's kind of hard to watch.
Right.
As you being you like tennis a lot,
Yeah.
so I know you have conversations with people that is like, man, I hate watching tennis, the same thing over and over and over again. People could argue the same thing about DCI, but then again, you could really argue that about all sports.
Right.
So, um, I don't know, but I think that's a good point that DCI should capitalize on that because there's not a lot going on right now.
Right. I mean, what
Um,
Wimbledon is happening right now, and I
just
guess
started.
right, the women's Euro soccer is just about to start. So, I mean, other than that, it's pretty much a dead space right now. So, I think it was smart for DCI to like have the season during this like dead space in major league sports, but I think they definitely need to take or make a bigger effort into expanding since there are so many just open spots right now.
Well, what would you think would be the right way to do it? Would it be television? Would it be because I think television would be the wrong move because nobody really watches TV anymore.
Uh,
Um,
I guess just
it's all
getting
streamed.
yeah, getting flow marching out there, but also just having like maybe like a free stream once a week. That's just a recap show, sort of like what we're doing, but it's actually showing experts since they own the intellectual rights to the shows. And like maybe on flow marching every week they just have at prime time, like I don't know, 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. They just do like, here are the top 12 cores throughout the season. Here are some experts of the shows, and pick music that people can really identify with.
Right.
Um,
And hey, since we're doing this now, hey DCI, if you need people to get on that screen and talk about some stuff, let me know.
right.
Hit us up. Hit your boys up. We're
Um,
down. I promise.
right.
But overall, I think this week was pretty eye opening. I think especially for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Academy, that first show with the Academy, that first run through
Mm-hmm.
um, at Crest, I was a little taken aback.
I think when you said that maybe they showed up late, I think that was probably the most likely explanation because when I watched their second show the day after was much better.
It
Like
was much better.
it did not sound like they were warming up as the show went on. Like it sounded like they were actually, ready to go the first
Yeah, it kind of
note.
seemed like Academy, rushed onto the field and then started playing.
Right.
Um, and boy, but hey, they still got third. So
Yeah.
for the event overall, and they broke 60s, so it puts them in the same kind of 10-point radius as Claire and Mandarins.
Right.
So
That's gonna be a hard gap to close though. Especially
I
with
know
what
eight
happened
point
at
eight point gap.
especially what happened at the DCI premiere. So there's a ton more cores there, and then we still have a ton more cores happening um, this coming week. So I will say there were a lot of shows that had bass boost and dancing,
Yeah,
and I guess that trend is just going to continue until more more often than not cores are doing that, and then it'll be a surprise, maybe even a welcome surprise, that a core doesn't have a dance sequence or is bass boosting their show. I mean, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
I love when like a bass boost hits, but some places are like over relying on it too much as like part of their entire show.
yeah. Like they rely too much on the electronic sound rather
Right.
than
The actual
their own.
people.
So to review what's coming up, we talked about the scores and the current rankings. Kind of looks like our usual crowds up at the top right now.
Mm.
For the first 4 shows. For the upcoming schedule, next event's July 1st in Indiana, in Muncie, and then on July 2nd there are, let's see, there's a bunch of shows on July 2nd. 1, 2, 3, 4 shows on July 2nd alone.
Jeez. Oh, I guess it is holiday weekend, so I guess that makes sense.
Yep, they're doing a lot on the 2nd, and then the 3rd has 3 shows, and then July 4th there's nothing.
Right.
So
That's good.
And then
Get
it
some time
comes
off.
back to 5th with 1 show. So over the next 3 days, there's what is that? 8 shows.
Mm. Dang.
Um,
Obviously, we're not
so,
gonna watch all of them, so
we're gonna try.
if we miss some stuff, I think I
we
will.
may have to alternate.
Yeah, that's true. I will say
we can do it that way.
I think I'm gonna put more emphasis on watching Guard this week, just since like I've seen most of the shows. Obviously, if I haven't seen a core show yet, then I'll be watching like the main component and stuff like that. But I think this week I'll try to give more emphasis on Guard.
What I saw at the beginning for the first week, I thought Guard, the shortcomings for me for Guard and Drumline, I'm going to put them both together, was visual performance, which I know is kind of their whole deal, and I know it's kind of broad, but here's what I mean by that. For flags, there were a lot of rough patches in there. It didn't seem like everybody was all together in a lot of the cores. That I'm not referencing any one core in particular.
Right.
For that one. And Drumline, especially in the Crossman show, kind of seemed like at one point some of them forgot for a second.
Oh no.
What they were doing. Just for a second, and then they got it back. But it just seemed like both of them were kind of reacting to what was happening rather than anticipating.
Yeah. I also will say from a visual aspect, I think a lot of cores don't have a lot of general effect like movements in their shows. They're a lot of just like standing and playing, but I know, or just standing and resting. And I know come finals time, those like holes of just nothing happening for horn players will probably be a lot more visuals. So I think some of the top cores definitely had a lot more visuals incorporated into their park and plays or park and rests. But I think the cores lower down on the list definitely need to step it up and add more visuals to their shows.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that the gap is closable, but it's going to take some work.
Yeah.
So overall summary this week was pretty eye-opening. Everybody's gonna kind of get some things they need to work on. DCI is officially started, not just preseason as of yesterday. So stay tuned here for all the score updates for those throughout the season. Again, we got 8 shows coming in the next couple of days. So make sure you're on with us at the Marching Arts Pods, POD, anywhere you get your podcasts. And to keep up with the DCI weekly score report. But we appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us. This has been the Marching Arts Podcast, your guide to all things marching.